All right. So, firstly, welcome back, everyone. I'm, as you all know, my name is Prashant Sharma. I'm back here with the fifth of the Info Edge webinar series, the Naukri Step Up webinar series for all HR professionals and talent acquisition professionals. Uh, it's been a great pleasure doing the last four, and of course, we'll be going live sharp at 4 in terms of with the entire program of the day and stuff. And we just wait for another 2 minutes for everyone to keep coming in. Uh, Hope you're all ready with your notepads, because today we've got a topic that we've got a lot of interest in the last four webinars, and we're very excited because this time we've got two masters of the game with us. That total 4 decades, and of course I'm going to do all the introductions, and we're going to get right into it. I think very we've just gotten about almost 2 minutes to go. Prakash, over to you. Uh, and as soon as that gets done at 4, we'll start with the proceedings. Anshuman, there seems to be a sound from the background from where you are. I think there's a slight noise in your background.
No, I'm in a very silent room. I'm just thinking. Just let me reduce the voice a little bit.
Yeah, I think now it's better. Don't worry.
Okay.
All right. And if you could also again zoom out a bit. Yes.
Yeah.
Right. So, all right. So looks like the participants are building now. So as promised, I shall kick off the proceedings now. Firstly, thank you so much and welcome to another edition of the Step Up webinar series by the Naukri Hiring Suite family, which includes brands like Naukri.com, FS, Employer Branding, IMJobs, Hirist. My name is Prashant Sharma and I'm a member of the Info Edge marketing function. As always, we're super happy to have you here on this Thursday evening and really appreciate the fact that you're all right on time. I think that's something that's of great importance to everyone while we're all working from home. We sincerely hope that you're all staying safe, taking all precautions, and are doing well in these pandemic times. Uh, our objective through this series has always been to ensure that we can learn from the experiences and insights of industry leaders, and together try to navigate through these uncertain times. With regards to recruitment. It's a pleasure today to have two esteemed panelists from the recruitment world. These two are bosses in the literal sense of the world as well, of the word as well. But before I bring them in and discuss the topic, here are a few things to just keep in mind during the webinar. We're starting everything at 4 p.m. sharp, and we'll be looking to wind up at about 4:45 p.m. We were lucky to receive so many questions through the registrations that we already have a flow and structure in place. That being said, we'll be doing a few live polls, and we'll also try to take a few live questions as well, based on the availability of time. The topic for today is one of great relevance in today's uncertain times. I think recruitment consulting firms have been under a lot of pressure in the current times, and we want to do our bit by discussing the path ahead for recruitment consultants. To discuss this crucial topic, and one where we've had such interest in before as well, we are joined today by two absolute stalwarts of the game, like I said. First up, we have Rituparna Chakraborty. She's the co-founder and executive vice president at Teamlease Services Limited. An accomplished business leader with more than two decades of experience. She has a passion for excellence and the proven ability to drive growth at scale. She has been instrumental in taking Teamlease India's the largest people supply chain company, and she leads its staffing business entirely. Apart from that, I think if you pick up any women entrepreneur list, any achievers list, you would find her there at all times. So we're very, very happy to have you with us, Rituparna. Also with us today is Mr. Anshuman Das. Again, more than 2 decades experience. Someone who started out at Infosys, pursuing his interest within the recruitment industry, and continued on as the co-founder of Careernet. His areas of interest include defining and establishing strong recruitment delivery models, innovative service levels, and much more with regards to relationship based on recruitment partnerships. I think he's someone who has set up the executive search practice in Careernet and has grown the business significantly over the last few years. It's a wonderfully diverse panel, and they are. If you have questions under about the recruitment consulting game, I'm pretty sure these two will have some great insights for you all. Like always, I don't want to start things off with another elongated introduction after I've done my bit. But what we will do is we'll do what we always do. Two rapid fire questions, and I'm going to start off with Anshuman first. Anshuman, 2 shares that I require from you. First, a personal positive that's come your way via the COVID crisis, and one, a professional positive that's come your way via COVID crisis. Over to you.
Sure. Thank you, Prashant, and thank you, audience, for hearing us out. So, Prashant, frankly, if you ask me, personal positive for my own thing, I think time management was an area which I always used to lack, and I think this COVID has just ensured that I have got much more better in terms of saying that I can do time management. So I think even after COVID, I think now I know how to manage my time. So that's a very personal positive, I would say, for me. As far as professional positive is concerned, see, we are a 20-year-old firm. We have about 1,500 people across the country which work for us, and we have physical offices where people used to work for. And I never believed about this whole work from home or remote working kind of a thing. But trust me, this has been the very big professional positive that work from home works. It is effective, and in fact, people are far more effective than when they were in office. So I think that's been a very, I would say, sweet discovery for me personally, and so that I would say is the really very big professional positive in this whole COVID times.
Fantastic. I think so. Time management is something I think we all can always continue to work on, and of course, the work from home aspect that you believe is productive, for your teams. So thank you so much for sharing that. Rituparna, over to you. What do you think has been one professional and one personal positive that is coming your way via this COVID crisis?
So I think the one which I wanted to share was exactly on the same lines as what Anshuman shared. I think even from our perspective, I mean, we are a 2,200 employee company, and we were working out of physical offices, and the fact that we were able to transition seamlessly to work from home and side by side ensuring business continuity, productivity, as well as safety was remarkable. However, I will give you a new point, given that Anshuman has covered it. And I think one of the things is that personally for me, and I'm talking personally as an individual, if I were to look at a professional game, I'm someone who's been perennially on the road. So I spend at least 3 days traveling, usually in a non-COVID environment. And now I am forced to stay indoors, and I'm stay working from home. What I suddenly feel is that I don't know whether I should be proud of it, but I do feel that I seem to have come much closer to my team during this COVID time. I mean, while I am not physically present with them, but through all the channels and the fact that I am static, stable, there is a routine, has helped me come much closer to my team members, and I feel that there is seamlessness, there is people are able to understand, empathize with each other, and honestly, for me as a professional, that is a great positive that has come out of COVID. The fact that I've been able to unlock a potential that always existed of our ability to connect much deeply with each other, I think is one huge positive. Personally, I've been able to achieve 100 minutes of workout every day. And that I have done by just skipping Sundays. So Sundays is my only break day. So for it is something that I always aspire to do. I usually run and do yoga and Pilates quite regularly, but because of my travel schedule, sometimes it gets disrupted. But the fact that I have been able to do it without a gap for since I think middle of March is a huge personal positive. So I have to leave it at that.
I think fantastic. I think on the first point that you shared, I think one of the biggest questions that keeps coming to us is how do I establish a connect when we're not meeting anyone? How do we establish a connect when we're not seeing each other in person? How do we do this virtually? I think the fact that you've showcased that as a positive right now is I think that's a great insight. And of course, we're all trying to work out and be at our best. So thank you for sharing that. Wonderfully honest again. And on that note, after now that we've heard from both of you, I think this is the right time because we've already crossed 130 participants. So let's do our first poll now. I think it's the absolute right time to get you all involved as well. The question will just be coming up on your screens. And yes, so when do you expect the situation at work to return to normal again? In the next 1 month, in the next 3 months, in the next 6 months, can't say, a lot of uncertainty. So it's a simple enough question. We just want to gauge where you are in terms of your mentality, your surroundings, what are you seeing? As you can see, you'll be hearing a lot from the host and the panelists, so we can't vote. You will hear from us via, as soon as the poll's over. So yes, I think so. I think in another 5 seconds, we can start counting the votes and we'll have an established yes. Right. So as you can see, only one person says that, in the next 1 month they're opening. Most of them are saying that there's uncertainty, but 36% say next 6 months. So I think that is something that, tells us about, what's happening within your mind space as well. And which is why I want to transition into the first question. How can, and this is on the business impact on recruitment consulting, how can small agencies stay in business, and what is the business model to help them thrive? I think when, and I'm going to put this to Anshuman first, I think it's very important for us to understand that this comes from someone who may not be, 20 years into the game, but they might be a small agency within the recruitment consulting setup. How do they stay relevant, and, how do they thrive? And if you could share any tips on a business model that could work well for them in this current scenario.
Sure, Prashant. So Prashant, I think a few things which people should very clearly acknowledge that while the boats of everyone will be very different, but the storm for everyone is the same. So I think from that point of view, we need to say that we all, whether it's a small firm or a big firm, every one of us is in the middle of a storm which has been unprecedented and never seen by the industry ever. So I think if anyone says that there is no stormy condition, then I think there is a problem clearly in terms of acknowledging what is going on. Second, I think this is the time when I would say maybe saying that will we all thrive? I would say probably I think what we need to look for is we need to survive and then we need to thrive. And the way at least I see in this scenario, people who survive will be the winners. And obviously as a result of that, we need to ensure that how do we do some of the bare essentials things so that we survive. Now, when it comes to really ensuring that how do we survive, then obviously the old Darwin's theory of survival of the fittest always fits the thing. But my own view is what firms need to do is to ensure is they follow the 80-20 principle. They should ensure that 80% of their effort should be going into the 20% very, very focused opportunities versus running around everywhere kind of a thing. See, when the markets are good, you see so many opportunities happening kind of a thing, and you try 20 number of new things kind of a thing. I think when the markets are bad, you need to kind of go back to your core and basics. Ensure that you build and work on few customers, but very, very deeply, and ensure that you have very, very greater degree of trust with established with them. I think that's the only reason why at this point in time, a customer would really want to work with you when they may have multiple options available kind of a thing. So I think that's the point number one which we need to do. Second, I think very important is this is the time when you need to be flexible. And many a times when you are a smaller firm, and you have a larger chunk of business which is available and you have choices to make kind of a thing, we tend to be a little bit inflexible in our approach from that point of view. I think you need to be flexible from that point of view. For example, we have our executive search division called Longhouse, and we do typically fully retained mandates, their kind of a thing. And typical fee structures are upward of 25%, going up to about 35% kind of a thing. And typically it's a fully retained mandates. And we have kind of ensured that we have provided right amount of flexibility. There had been mandates which were going on before COVID times, and because of COVID, the mandates got changed kind of a thing. Customers came back and said that, can you roll those retainers because of COVID? And normally, which we don't do kind of a thing, we have gone back and done those things and flexibility. So I think that is the other thing which you need to kind of ensure that is there. Third, I think even though you are a 10 people firm or a 100 people firm, I think you still need to kind of ensure that you win the trust of your team very, very closely. I think unless until you do not work with your team very closely, you will not be able to tide this through. As a matter of fact, what may happen if you have a 20 people team, 5 people may have surplus amount of work and 15 people may not have work kind of a thing. So which means that you will keep switching gears daily or weekly kind of a thing. So as a result of that, people need to be focused on survival and the results than only on their structure and their own kind of a thing. If we all stay together, that is how only we can win. Otherwise, only what will happen, few guys who have work will survive and many others will wipe out. So, and probably that is not a good state to be in. So those are the few things which we have seen and which we are trying to do, and which is at least helping us to at least sail through the quarter 1 and hoping that our quarter 2 should also help us to sail through.
Nice. I think what you shared there with regards to the 80-20 principle is, I think, extremely valuable to a lot of mid-sized organizations as well, where I think if they focus on the fact, what is doing well, where is the main productivity coming from, if they try to focus on that, this might be the right time to capitalize on it. So I think a focused approach would be great. Thank you so much for sharing that, Anshuman. I think some great insights there. Coming to you, Ritu, now after this, I think the question that I wanted to ask you was, and all of these questions have come in from our recruitment consulting attendees and folks who've registered. If it were up to you, and what are some areas beyond recruitment that a mid-sized organization can now pivot to? For example, a lot of recruitment activity has taken a hit in the recent months and quarters. The mind can only go to, what else can I do? How can I go beyond recruitment? So would you have any advice for those, mid-sized companies that are having that issue right now?
I'll try and respond that question, combining it with the question you asked, Anshuman, because somewhere I feel that there is a common thread between the two. I think if you have been a specialist or a recruiter or a consultant who's been catering to a certain segment, it's very important to, and if that segment is hit, I feel that if you possess the inherent skill set of being able to, the art of doing a perfect match, I think it may not be such a bad idea to focus on segments which are alive and where there are green shoots. That's, I think, because that is something which you're playing to your core. Your core strength is being able to match. Yes, it might be an unfamiliar territory for your recruiter, but I think this is the time to showcase fungibility in your capabilities. I mean, you have the core ability to do matching, and hence, why not look at the segments where there are green shoots? Why not? And I'll come to those segments maybe later in the conversations, but that is one. Secondly, I think survival is growth today. And hence one should be very clear that what is the primary goal right now? The primary goal should be that can we just see through the next 6 months somehow? And hence one should look at one's internal cost structures. It's extremely important right now, one is how do I utilize existing resources and try and look at newer avenues. But I think the first goalpost should be that, can I look at my internal cost structures? Can I go lean? Can I adopt digitization as much as possible in various aspects? And COVID definitely has taught us that thing, if not anything else, that it's very much possible. I think one should look at if that ability is possible. Assessment is one area, and is where people could look at as a possibility, because I think it's an extension of the capability. Uh, every recruiter inherently possesses the ability to assess. Yes, they come up with their own mental algorithms. Sometimes those algorithms are not have not been put down on a piece of paper, but every recruiter has that. And if there is a way, and if you have the resources and the time for you to kind of come out with industry specific assessments, and that could be an assessment not from the perspective of hiring. It's an assessment from the perspective of helping candidates gauge where they stand. And I think that itself can be an interesting area to diversify into. What about, I mean, this is the time where everyone is anxious, everyone is worried about their job security, and everybody is constantly giving this narrative that if people remain skilled, they constantly upgrade, then there is then there is hope. And hence that itself is a business opportunity, I feel, that we could look at, where again, if you have the wherewithal, because most recruiters are very strong domain experts. And sometimes some recruiters also come from business backgrounds, from what I understand. So if you have that domain knowledge, how about converting that? My daughter has a very active social life remotely, so pardon me for the phone calls that she keeps getting. But anyway, I think if we are able to channelize that again and collaborate with different technology platforms which have the technological capability to come out with learning solutions, why not do that? Sometimes not always from the perspective of generating revenue, but these are interesting hooks that you can create with to keep yourself engaged with your candidates as well. And because your candidates are gold, it's like the equivalent, your candidate base is also equivalent to gold, and you will need them. And of course it can, if it is something which is worth its worthy, I think it can also be channelized into a revenue generating idea. And finally, my submission to everyone would be is that it's difficult time for everyone, for customers, candidates alike. And now is the time, and I think Anshuman also alluded to that we probably should, it's a good time to invest in the relationship. You know, we spend, maybe not, I mean, I'm not being, pardon me if I'm being generic. We spend so much time discussing transactional stuff with our customers and our networks and connects. I think COVID has given us a great opportunity to take our conversations beyond the transactional stuff and to spend more time understanding what's happening in the businesses, in different corporates, just probably listening and engaging and investing in deeper relationship, because I am infinitely confident that it's a matter of time that the entire situation will improve. We are seeing green shoots. So all these investments, yes, we all have to figure out a way to survive and see through the next 6 months. And if you make these investments in relationships and connects, you will see the upside of it the moment they start, the economy starts reviving and they start hiring. India is a young country. India is a large domestic consumption market, and there is no point treating this as a hopeless situation. So look forward, stay positive, and invest in deep relationships.
Fantastic. I think one key element that you did talk about, with regards to the question as well, was around assessments, and maybe trying to put something together for that purpose might be an extension to the recruitment services that a lot of consulting firms might be offering. I think after hearing out both these aspects, I think what we know is that we've got two wonderfully positive panelists here, and I mean that's why they are the panelists, and that's why they've been in this industry for 20 years. So there is hope, and let's all stay positive. I think now would be a right time to also talk about team morale and engagement. I think that's something that you both have spoken about very, very avidly right now. It was a very important part of establishing that connect was a very key aspect of what you guys were talking about. So I think let's get the audience involved again, and I think the next poll will be coming up very, very shortly. And it's a very simple yes or no question, as you can see. Is employee motivation and performance a major concern for you during these stressful times? I think while corporate tends to have a lot of different aspects for these very, very key aspects, I think for recruitment consulting firms, how do you do this? How do you manage this aspect? I think it's very, very key in COVID times. So is employee motivation and performance a major concern for you? Simple yes or no, because I think we're always focused on the money that's coming in, the productivity. That I hope to see a lot of yeses here, right? And yes, so 86% of our attendees are actually focused on and are concerned about the fact that employee motivation and performance in these times. So I think thank you for sharing that. And now that we have that in place, I think that's where my next question comes from. And I'm going to ask Anshuman again. And it's a very, very simple question, but I'm pretty sure it doesn't have a very easy answer. How do you measure a team's performance during these times? What are the factors that go into measuring a team's performance during these times?
Sure. So I think, Prashant, before we get into the, I think, performance, and the way I always believe is the relationship between an employee and an employer is always about we give something and we take something from them. And probably performance is many a times an articulation of how the employee is giving back to the organization. And I would probably see this relationship in two ways, kind of a thing, in terms of what we as an organization are giving to them and what they are giving to us, kind of a thing. I think we need to talk this thing in totality, and team performance is also about organizational performance to employees and then employee performance to organization. I think from a company performance to employees, I think today when you really look at any individual probably needs 3-4 kinds of help at any point in time. They need obviously some financial help, they need work help, they need personal level of help, and then probably they may need some kind of infrastructure or those kind of help. So what we as an organization are doing to ensure that we are not just focused on the work help aspect of it or the business help aspect of it, but we are offering a 360-degree help to our employees when they are working remotely from that point of view. So which means that probably somebody may be going through, imagine a bachelor working, got stuck in a city and has been in a room for 3 months. Nobody to talk about, lockdown being there. What kind of mental trauma you go about it? Plus there is a whole uncertainty about how the markets and economy is going to be. There is always that risk of losing a job from that point of view. So there is that kind of trauma which somebody goes through, kind of a thing. And at that moment, you go back and ask about what you delivered is a little unfair question. I think probably we need to give something and then say that, okay, what you delivered, kind of a thing. So I think from that point of view, any organization who is building these safety rails of the 3-4 type which I mentioned, I think they will be far more enabled better to kind of receive it back from their employees in terms of the various other gains they can expect. Now, when we have to really go back and say that how are we measuring our employee output, I would say 2-3 things which we as a company did. We normally had always a year view and a year plan kind of a thing. And since April is the time when typically the calendar year changes, we always had and this happened around March. So we were just changing the year. So we kind of said that, look, at this stage when the business is so uncertain, we shouldn't really talk about what the year target is going to be. It would be really, really unfair for us to expect. And when today we as a company cannot really focus, how should we ask an employee to go and do it? So we first away said that we are not going to put up an year target kind of a thing. So we said that let's talk about what are we going to do quarter. And then we said that let's break the quarter because the situation is so dynamic that let's break the quarter into a monthly kind of a thing. So as a result of that, we said, let's meet and review very closely, talk about every month on month kind of a thing, what the plan is, and review the situation. And so that at least people are knowing and are very clear that, okay, what I committed in first month, what I was supposed to do it doesn't happen, then I have the option of going back and changing it for month 2 and month 3 kind of a thing. So as a result of that, people know that the company is designing it for their success and is wanting to ensure that not that you committed something and you will be held responsible for it. I think that was one. Second, in fact, the point which I made earlier in my remark, in terms of how are we organizing to share and care the people from that point. For example, you may have a team of 20 and you may have work in for 10 people and the other 10 people may not have work kind of thing. How are you ensuring that you are able to uniformly get work for all 20 for that kind of thing? Which means that do you want your 10 people to be 100% occupied or you want your 20 people to be 50% occupied kind of thing? And that's a call which you have to go and take. In a very traditional way, you say, okay, hey, here is my structure and this guy handles this sector and the work is coming in this sector. As a result, we will let it happen. The other sector is going dry and let the team go dry kind of a thing. So we cannot go with that approach kind of a thing, which means that it has to be results followed by people, followed by structure. It can't be the other way, which normally happens in good times is here is a structure, here are people, and then the result will follow from that. So I think that's the second change that the organization need to do from that point of view. Third, I think probably in recruitment, I have seen a lot of smaller organizations tend to be very, very output focused from that point of view. And they typically are very, very high variabilized kind of a thing. And in good times, it works because it tends to ensure that the organization earns and the people earn kind of a thing. I think at this stage, you need to change your compensation model also. You need to kind of bring out a reasonable level of input-output mix and balance kind of a thing. And you need to ensure that a certain level of fixed is guaranteed to most of the people there, so that at least they're able to meet their expenses and kind of meet their kind of a thing. And as Rituparna also said that we need to do a very, I would say, rationalization of cost at the back end. So if we are able to reduce the overall fixed flow and ensure it is uniformly distributed, and if there is any upside revenues that are coming in, then that can be taken as a variable model. So I think companies need to relook at their compensation model. And by that, I think I'm hoping that the situation will improve in a couple of quarters and then people will be able to make up for the lost earnings and the lost opportunity also.
Great. I think one more very, very key aspect that did come across was that, was around the flexibility with regards to our structures and, trying to see if having that flexibility that the annual review becomes a monthly change and you have the power to continue to change those. I think very, very key aspects. And of course, the human element that you started it off with, that it should be a two-way street. I think, again, that's something that we can all, we tend to forget that many times. And which gives me the opportunity to transition to my next question to Rituparna, of course. This question is something that, it would definitely be on a lot of employee motivators and engagement professionals as well. How do you manage your salespeople in times like these? I think while targets and everything is to one side, I think if we talk about the human aspect, which I know you will also enjoy talking about a bit more, what would you say is the best way to keep them engaged when the client onboarding has significantly gone down? I mean, even if it hasn't for everyone, but I'm sure most of the folks are struggling, with onboarding new clients over the last 3 months. So how do you keep the sales folks motivated and, how do you keep them engaged?
So I think my biggest paranoia in a situation like this is that I cannot let my salespeople lose their killer instinct. Salespeople, they thrive on signups. And so essentially, I mean, I personally am a big believer of ABC, always be closing. And suddenly closing has died up. And hence, how do you maintain the killer instinct and how do you ensure that it doesn't ever die down? I have opted for something which the next best thing that salespeople love doing, which is they love criticizing every other function within the organization, right? I mean, they feel that their success is theirs, and I'm telling you, and that's nothing wrong in it. I think that's the attitude.
As the marketing guy, I tend to agree with you as well.
So that's nothing wrong in that attitude, by the way. If a salesperson is not like that, the person is probably not doing a good job. So I said, I mean, what we've decided is unleash the salespeople this time, because you try and manage that. When salespeople start becoming critical, and because we feel that they're using that as an alibi for their lack of success and so on and so forth. We manage those situations, right? That's what leaders come in and they're saying, okay, you have to be reasonable, we have to strike a balance. Here is a scenario where we don't have to worry about it, and I actually encourage them to unleash the critic in them. And I asked them that please go and say what's wrong in every function. Like, please tell me why operation sucks, why finance you're having problems.
Good.
So yeah, and I actually let them come out with whatever they had. And because of that, honestly, yes, they're exaggerated. And I think over a period of time, we as leaders somehow know how to moderate the exaggerations that come through from salespeople. But I think a lot of good insights came from that. Things which, because you need to keep the trains running on time, which sometimes get overlooked, and sometimes things which get managed have come to the fore. And it helps us look into those aspects and come up. And I think now that we have the time to focus on fixing all those issues and challenges, and even if there are perception issues, this is a great time to solve those perception issues, right? To discuss with data points, with evidences, and so on and so forth. So I think I allowed them to do that quite freely, and they were not managed. I think salespeople also are very tuned in to what's happening in the marketplace. They understand customers, industry segments, demands. So we said, why not organize a hackathon amongst the salespeople to come out with what are the possible futuristic growth avenues that can emerge and that we can look at. And just throw paint in the wall. Whatever you have to, whether it's ambitious, doable, undoable, just let's start talking about it. And I think that is something that was quite interesting. Salespeople also, I mean, Teamlease, as a company, we're investing heavily on digitalization and digitization. So we have a plethora of digital tools available. So we've actually asked salespeople that you guys are my ears and eyes on the ground, and hence, please get involved in product development, come out with ideas for new products or new solutions that can happen. Some of them could be as a response to COVID, for example, and hence what those possibilities could be. Also, we have encouraged them. Salespeople also sometimes can be very myopic and transactional. We've told them that now is the time for you to just sow the seed, right? And hence, please get yourself connected with various CXOs and customers, and just listen to them and be their sounding box for whatever is going on. And please don't have to talk about business, because we all know what's happening in every company. And whenever it's the right time, whenever there is a need, the business will flow. So I think that's what we've been doing. And yes, in our case, there are no easy passes. So while we have foregone their Q1 targets, but I think they are on the treadmill from next quarter onwards. They may not be gold on 100% of the original targets that we set out, but they definitely will go back to chasing numbers and targets. And of course, COVID can throw up another googly. I mean, India can go into another lockdown, but at least we are staying positive, and I'd like my salespeople also to stay positive, and the fact that a turnaround could be anytime around the corner. So that's it. I think for me, I'm sharing extremely anecdotal, individualistic suggestions with all of you. This is what we are doing, and if it makes sense, great.
And I think honestly, that's why we're all here. We're here to see what is being implemented at your organizations, and that's the best way to learn from these initiatives. I think best practices are the key for webinars like this. Thank you so much for sharing that. Wonderful shares again, lots of which I agreed with as well, with regards to the salespeople. Coming in and trying to transition to the next section now. We're going to have our third poll coming up very, very shortly. Now that poll talks about what the core business is. I mean, what has been the impact of COVID-19 on your hiring activity? It's as simple as that. I mean, how do you see all of these things transition? What's happening? And I think, basis your answers here, we can talk about some very interesting trends that our panelists can foresee, and that's the question that I'll be putting to them next. If you could, I think you'll find an option that will definitely fit your predicament right now. We've put enough options there. Also nice to see that the attrition has been an absolute zero, and we've retained all our attendees, and they've constantly increased. Thank you so much for staying with us. Right, so I think now we can see the results of the poll as well. All right, so reduced by more than 50%, and I think that is something that does hold a lot of the industry standard as well, if not a little bit improved. I think what that question gives me the opportunity to talk about is the fact that this is what's happening right now. This is what we've seen in the last few months. One by one, I think I'm going to put the same question to both of you, because I'd love to hear you out. What do you foresee as because we've heard that adversity brings its many opportunities, and we want to put a positive spin on most things. What do you think are long-term and short-term trends that you think will emerge? So if I could just make it objective, one short-term, one long-term trend for recruitment and recruitment consulting firms that you see incoming. First, I'll go to Anshuman. Yes.
Sure. So I think, Prashant, one of the short-term trend in recruitment which is going to come out is digital recruitment. I think remote recruitment, or so-called the digital recruitment, I think it is working and it's a reality. And today, right from a CXO hire to a very entry-level hire, companies are fairly comfortable to do the process remotely. In fact, we are right now in the process of offering a campus hiring solution to a lot of our customers, and where they are saying that they will do complete campus hiring sitting remotely from a desktop, which means that they will visit 40-50 campuses, hire about 200-300 people, do everything remotely. They will kind of do a webinar remotely the way we are doing it. They will do assessments remotely. They will do, and these will be all proctored assessments, and then they will do video interviews, and then they will onboard also. So as in shorter run, if you see in the next, I would say 3 to 6 months, 80% of hiring within the, and even I'm saying even after COVID also, you'll find that 80% of the hiring is going to move as a digital recruitment. It no more we will want the need that the person has to meet face-to-face kind of thing. Yeah, the specific roles and those things will continue, not that it will totally go away, but I do believe that 80% of the recruitment is going to become digital. So which means there are a lot of various tools, things like Zoom, Hangout, various other products, and those things are going to come up. I think that is one definite short-term change which we see. I think from a medium to long term, what is going to happen is that as you start becoming more and more digital, we will probably not replace, I would say, interviews, but what will happen, the use of assessments and personality assessments and those tools is going to become far more pronounced from that point of view. Which means that probably, let's say I and Rituparna are meeting and we're talking about it, and let's say if I'm interviewing with Rituparna will probably do some kind of a personality assessment of mine, or will do some kind of assessment, and she will have some report about and insights about me, so that she can be very focused in terms of asking her questions and ensuring that we kind of really make sense in the next 1 hour, and she's able to really assess me from that point of view. So I think, and which is essentially because a lot of these content which needs to be developed, a lot of those things which need to be developed, tools and technologies will take time. So that's why I would say, and there is happening in progress right now. So right now, and even if we talk about some of the very large Fortune 100 companies, they are actually moving to a concept of no touch, no see recruitment, which probably means that you don't really meet people, you don't really go them face to face kind of a thing. And assessments, use of assessments is going to be far more pronounced from that. So in fact, Ritu earlier mentioned that probably companies, a lot of these firms should essentially look into assessment. And this could be a very good change for a lot of the firms here, that they may try to pivot and try to build a service line around assessment from that point of view. So I think those are the things which we see, at least in the short to medium and long term, emerging out from here.
Ritu, your
Yeah, I think cost of acquisition is prohibitively high in a country like India, right? I think all of you who are on the call might immediately agree, and that's why Naukri is becoming profitable day by day. So the thing is that um, the, I honestly feel the revolution that UPI has been able to do in the world of financial transaction. Um, I believe that India is right now at the edge of seeing such an innovation even in the world of matching. And I can speak with confidence because right before uh, COVID hit us, I think there has been deliberations that have happened with Niti Aayog, wherein they are seriously contemplating that is it possible to create a UPI-like layer, an engine essentially, which helps us track individuals, not track, in a sense, create a national repository of candidates with their skill sets, with their educational background. I mean, for example, you have a concept of DigiLocker, right? Which is all these concepts, DigiLocker, UPI, if they can be extended and if we can, uh, widen our imagination and come out with an underlying layer which enables matching seamlessly and at a fraction of the cost that we currently invest in terms of being able to do matching essentially is the future, to be honest. And India is at that juncture where we have to make that possible. Like, that we are hearing about this constant narrative today about the plight of the migrant workers, for example, or the guest workers. you know from my vantage point, I'm in a situation while I do not have plethora of job openings, but we do have job openings in certain segments which could be an immediate fit to many of these migrant workers, and people's perception of migrant workers are essentially that this will be a complete casual low end informal worker. It's not necessarily so. I mean, we have a lot of migrant workers who have left, who had semi-skilled, skilled jobs also in hand. But because there was a community plight happening, they were leaving. Imagine if I would have been able to communicate with them that, look, there are jobs for you. Or even now, I mean, even now we have to look at various layers to be able to communicate with the migrant population in this country to tell them that, look, here are these green shoots where jobs exist. A crisis like what we are seeing today, it actually expedites some of these innovations. And I'm hoping that there are technocrats, technical geniuses out there who are seeing and spotting this trend and who would collaborate with the government, because finally, we might have all the ideas, government have infinite power and resources. If we are able to collaborate and use the two together, I think this talk or this thought that have emerged with Niti Aayog can be made a reality. And I'm hoping that organizations like, let's say, Naukri, Careernet, even us, Teamlease, and there are many, if we can work jointly together with the government to enable creating an infrastructure, honestly, essentially the way I visualize, all banks are riding on the UPI layer, right? Their transactions are going on. So I think if that layer exists, then all of us essentially who are in the business of matching, whether offline or online, can become the interface, collaboration, marketing layer on top. And trust me, cumulatively, the entire ecosystem of matching in this country, whether it's consultants, candidates, employer, it's a win-win situation for everyone. I feel that I am hopeful, and I feel that that's somewhere around the corner. Is it going to happen in the next 12 months? Maybe not. Is it going to happen? Maybe in the next 3-year horizon, I see this happening clearly in this country. Look, I can tell you a lot about, at the moment, what the outlook is for the next 6 months, which sector, next 12 months. But I mean, those are details. So if anyone of you want to know about those details, you can reach out to me one-on-one. But I'll leave that for another day.
Fantastic. I think what we've seen today is that while we started with the discussion about current scenario, what are we doing as best practices, what have we learned from the last 3 months or so, I think we're also looking forward now with whatever you both have shared in terms of trends, uh, which gives me the opportunity to quickly transition towards the end, because we have a lot of more questions that we had planned also, and we have more questions. I think we have a very important question within the live as well, and I wish we had more time to take all of that, but with the interest of time and the promise that we have kept to everyone that we'll be on time, we will have to bring today's webinar to an end. uh, if I could just have one closing comment from each of the panelists, and this time I'll go first to Rituparna because we've gone in the reverse order all the time. So Ritu, just a quick takeaway from you before we bounce.
I know that all I can say is that we are all in the same storm, but may not be in the same boat. So I think I would urge all of you to look within in terms of what your strengths are and what you are good at and what you leverage you have built over the years, and try and create a plan going forward based on those strengths. And yes, you should keep an open mind. You should be flexible. You should be absorbing what's happening around you. And one huge recommendation for all of us is that let's adapt and adopt digitalization in a big way. I mean, let's make it part and parcel of our lives. Why am I emphasizing it? Because I'm closely associated with the community, with the recruitment community. I mean, I used to actually sell for Monster once upon a time. So I've been meeting recruitment consultants a lot. I think the adoption that should have happened in that space amongst the recruitment consultant company in terms of on digital side has been low. So my submission is that we can all win this together. We will get through this. Just make the right investments right now. Be prudent, be frugal, be fungible, and we will get through this.
Fantastic. Anshuman, if I could just have a quick takeaway.
So, Prashant, I think we as a company have seen three slowdowns: the 2000.com burst, the 2008 and 9, and this. And after every big slowdown, there is a new set of new companies which will come and lead the show. So we all know what came out after 2001, and then after 8 and 9, and probably the whole Uber and Facebook and so many companies. If you see, and if you go back and see, after every disruption or after every meltdown, there is a new tomorrow which is going to come. So the job of recruitment is going to be definitely relevant. It is not going to go away anywhere. As Rituparna said, adopt more and more digital, and there will be tomorrow a new set of industries which will come out, a new reality and a new normal. And I think we all will adjust to do that. And I think stay safe and stay relevant. Thank you.
Fantastic. I think stay safe and stay relevant. That's a wonderful line from to close on. I think to all the participants that are exiting right now, please do fill the feedback form. I'm extremely grateful, and to both the panelists. What a wonderful 45 to 50 minutes of insights and experiences. Thank you to all the panelists. Thank you to all the attendees who joined us. I think a massive thanks to everyone, because I understand spending 40-50 minutes logged in, hearing us out, trying to take all the technical glitches. Luckily, I think we've been fairly okay on that aspect over the last 5. But really appreciate the attendees. Thank you so much to the panelists as well. Time is money, and you spent a lot of time with us. So really do appreciate that. We had 2 wonderful bosses today with us, and hope to continue to stay engaged with us and collaborate with us as well. In conclusion, I just hope that you, your families, your loved ones, you're all taking necessary precautions, and I wish you the best of your health. I think, like Anshuman said, stay positive, stay relevant. And on that note, the webinar is done. Thank you so much. It was a pleasure for all of us to, put this together, and I'm sure you all enjoyed it as well.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Stay safe.
Thank you.
Bye.
Prashant. Yeah.